All right. Just trying things out. Happy Memorial Day to everybody that's out there. This is just me going over a new test of the PHRT International Headquarters Recording Studio on this amazing holiday, and with some of the events that have happened recently in California. I have a lot of thoughts on that, and I'm just gonna spitball. We're doing kind of a news report. We're kind of doing a tactical review, and there's a lot of analysis that can happen for hazmat technicians, hazmat operations level responders, incident commanders, and the general public. And with my background in there, I just thought that it would be, nice to throw some of this information out. So I'm just trying some of this stuff out. I got the new computer set up. I'm on a brand new whole setup of software for this streaming. I was gonna try to do this on both YouTube and on Facebook, but that was just way too above my technical prowess. So we're just here on YouTube with my 514 followers. We'll see. This is a better place to do these long actions, anyways. I'm hoping that in the next few days that my good friend Adam McFadden from Firehouse Training will be able to jump on. We'll jump on his Instagram and we'll talk about some of those actions as well. But I've got a bunch of tabs over here. Let's see if we can just jump on over to that and see if that works on out and just seeing how these tabs pop on over. We'll jump over to this. I'm just seeing, there we go. Just taking a look at the analytics, just trying to get warmed up right now. So give me 1 second. All right. So I just wanted to get everything set up. We're only in the first few minutes right now. Do, 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 do. So what we had, this is I want to make sure that everybody's aware and that we're all caught up on the news of the events. So I'm going to jump on over here to the X feed of the Orange County Fire Authority. This has been a multi-day event, and it sounds like it's finally starting to ramp on down. There is a very complex event. It was a multi-day hazardous materials potential spill and release with over 40,000 people evacuated. Disneyland was being threatened. Knott's Berry Farm was being threatened. Cats and dogs sleeping together was pure pandemonium and chaos. So, if we roll on back down here to the X feed, yeah, there's a lot going on. I just have to roll on back. Okay, so they had some wildfires back on May 20th. We had some good community risk reduction posts from them on May 21st. They run a ton of calls, 44,000 incidents over the last few months, and they are a very busy agency. I do know a few members that work over there. I wouldn't say that I'm really close friends with them, but they are good counterparts. I have deployed with them in the realm of task force actions. And here we go on May 21st. Garden Grove incident update. Evacuees can reunify with families or friends at El Rancho Alamitos High School at blah, blah, blah. So we finally start seeing this. This is what, 4 days ago this incident began. And this incident is still trying to come to a resolution. They're probably looking at reoccupying right now. There's been a lot of discussions from news media. There's been national experts talking about this. Stash Training had an amazing video over at his YouTube page. And of course, on all the Facebook groups where hazardous materials geeks such as myself talk, there's been a no lack of chatter and actions. I'm not going to show any of those Facebook pages because those are private pages for safety professionals as well as firefighters and hazardous materials technicians. Sometimes we get really deep into the weeds, but once again, they're protected features. So I don't want to threaten the privacy of those pages, but I will talk in general about some of that stuff. And like I said, this is just me talking. You see the disclaimer on the bottom. You can't see it fully, but there you go. There's the disclaimer. This is just me, Chris, talking about what my thoughts are on there. And I'm not going to be throwing any blame or any shade at any of the responders or any of the public or any of the actions. But I did want to go through some of some of the comments that the public said and let people identify and understand what the thinking process is on this. So if we jump on back, we take a look here. May 21st, we jump up, updated 322. Firefighters responded to an aerospace manufacturing company, Western Avenue in Garden Grove, for a vapor release from a 34,000 gallon tank containing methyl ethyl bad stuff. Okay, methyl acrylate, an industrial chemical used in plastics and manufacturing. This is critical. The first things that we need to understand right now for the public and for first responders in totality is that this is a fixed facility. This is not a transportation related incident. As a fixed facility, we have pre-plans available, we have fire inspections, we have community inspections. California has a very robust hazardous materials inspection program across all areas within that state, and they have very highly competently trained hazardous materials technician. Like I said, I know a lot of them out there, and okay, we already have the beginning of this. So let's take a look at where this was. I'm just going to jump on over. We have this map. I just put this as the thumbnail. So from the Orange County Register, this is a few days ago. This is May 23rd. Here's their evacuation, and here's all of this. They even showed a plume. This plume looks familiar. This isn't from Saris, but this is another plume generation model showing where the smoke cloud can go. So the winds were coming, almost looks like they're probably coming directly from the south. But let me see here. I don't need an ad. I need to find, I thought I had the map. I don't have the map. So we'll just go into Google Maps. We're just gonna go to Google Maps here. We're just jumping through. We don't need to see where I live. So let's go on down to Los Angeles. This is in the Anaheim area. Pretty obvious on the Googles. That's the coolest thing right now is with Google, it does integrate the wildfires, car accidents, significant incidents. So even just with this map, we're able to identify very quickly the location of this incident because it's a national scale incident. So this is a very, very extreme incident. Right next to Knott's Berry Farm and Disneyland, I-5 is all the ways up there. So we got the highways. We got California 22 right there and Beach Boulevard. And that kind of goes in line with that map that we had. So we're in an industrial park, just looking. I've never been down here. I've never been down at this area right here. But I'm just looking at the map, densely populated within an industrial park area. So there's obviously going to be a lot of industry and hazardous materials storage. And once again, the county, the area, the jurisdiction, Orange County, they get annual reports from this organization on how much product is stored, the maximum amount that is stored, who the emergency contacts are, and what is located throughout this entire property. These are called Tier 2 reports, and these came into fruition in the response to the Bhopal incident in 1984, where 3,000 people were pretty much instantly killed from a product called methyl isocyanate, MIC, which is a highly reactive substance which has a significant toxicity and flammability to it. It's a severe respiratory hazard. It released, I think it was 10,000 pounds or 10,000 gallons. Don't quote me on that. But nevertheless, between the thousands of people that died instantly and the tens of thousands of people that died over in Bhopal, India, the United States, they said the community has a right to know. This is the Community Right to Know Act, CERCLA. And with CERCLA, we have to have LEPCs, local emergency planning committees. Every single jurisdiction, town, tribal area has an LEPC where the community has a right to know what hazardous materials are in their community. So if we jump always back over to this X feed, there's going to be conversations in here where people are complaining, how was this ever allowed to be here? Why isn't the community aware? They were 100% allowed to be aware. The information is readily available, but it's not put up on social media. It's just out. You just have to go to a governmental webpage. And that is one of the frustrations that we have in the modern society because we live on the tickety talks. We live on the YouTube. We live on Facebook. This is in a government webpage and a government file. And the law was created. Federal laws are very strict and they're very tight. The form that they have is a very federal looking form, and the information is difficult to understand, even for hazardous materials technicians. So if I scroll in a little bit more, we start seeing some houses right across the street. Looks like we have some rail lines. We have RV storage. Yep, there's the rail lines going to this industrial park. This reminds me of an industrial park that I have within my jurisdiction, and a call. I'm going to talk about two calls that I went on where we had the same or similar issues. Definitely not at a 34,000 gallon level, 16 gallons for one of mine, and the other one was a pretty significant fire. But we look on down, we zoom on down. I got my choo-choo cars, I got my RVs, and then we have a large fixed facility storage tank here. We have other storage, non-bulk containers, could be hazmat, could not be hazmat, but we have those three. Like I said, the news reports and everything, I've looked at some of the news reports, but I haven't really been paying a lot of attention because it's the holiday weekend. So I'm kind of going blind at this. But from the actions of what I'm seeing, we're just going to go through Orange County Fire Authority and see what they take a look at. So we start this out already. We have pre-planning in place. We know what the product is. We know approximately how much the product is. We have safety data sheets and we have information. We have a lot of knowns. Just from that tweet right there, we have a ton of knowns, which is good. The biggest challenge that we have in hazardous materials response in the fire-based setting or any other is I don't know what the product is. And we have a whole wide array of hundreds of thousands up to millions of dollars of equipment on our hazmat vehicles that help us identify what the product is. And my hazmat technicians, they always get so hung up and strung up on what exactly the product is. And I always have to remind them and tell them, I don't care what the product is. I care about how the product's going to hurt me. Now, knowing the name of the product lets me identify those toxicological, flammability hazards, everything else like that. But if with those expensive tools, if I find out that it's toxic, cool, I'm done. If I find out that it's flammable, cool, I'm done. If I find out that it's flammable and toxic or exposed, so with this, knowing this product really, really, really helps me out. So methylcrylate. So we go to the first resource that we have out there. Not the NIOSH Pocket Guide, our handy dandy emergency response guidebook, provided to us by PHMSA. Every fire engine, every cop car, every ambulance, every medic unit, every battalion chief rig, heck, even truck drivers have this little orange book of goodness. And we have waterproof versions over at hazmatandrescue.com. I've got awesome additional ERG sticker packs, but this big guide right here, the actual paper version, it is a very valuable resource at the beginning incident for us to figure out what's going on. The problem is, it is provided by the Department of Transportation, and it will even say it's intended for the use by first responders during the initial phase of a transportation incident. This is not a transportation incident. This is a fixed facility incident. So there's limitations with this orange book. So we're going to use it with a grain of salt, but it can still help us out. So we're going to start off with this little orange book, and we're going to go to methylcrylate. I'm going to say it wrong. It doesn't matter. I'd like to find the UN number. That's what I care about. We have all this stuff. I go to the blue pages, which is arranged organically, which is arranged alphabetically. Methyl. There's so many meths. There's so many meths. Let's see if it's even here. Bam, right there. There she is. Methylcrylate. It's a monomer. That tells me a huge clue right there. And it's stabilized. When I hear the word stabilized or inhibited, that gives me a clue that we have a polymerization product. And you see right there, there's a capital P right next to it. The capital P tells me that this can polymerize. So what I end up doing is I take my pen, take a piece of paper over here, and I'm going to write down 1247. We're going to base all of our research right now off of 1247. Like I said, I'm doing this blind. And this takes me to guide page 129. It's a polymerization product, and it's guide 129. So guide 129 tells me that this is a liquid inside the container, wants to be a liquid outside of the container. So I flip the book forward, and I go to guide 129. So this is flammable liquids. It is a water miscible flammable liquid that is noxious. So my potential hazards. This is a highly flammable product, can be easily ignited by heat, sparks, or flames. The vapors can explode. Vapors can travel to the source of ignition, flash back. Most vapors are heavier than air. That's an important key. They're heavier than air. Unlike a smoke column or a wildfire evacuation where the smoke plume goes up, these vapors, when they release, they're going to go down. So we have to watch out for storm drains, sewers, low-lying areas, and basements. Right? Vapor explosion hazard indoors. We have the polymerization. They may polymerize explosively when heated or involved in a fire. They could polymerize explosively. This is not a BLEVE. This is an explosion. This isn't a full explosion. And the ERG is generic in its terms, right? But we talked about the runoff to the sewer. Could be a fire explosion hazard because the vapors are heavier than air. Containers may explode when heated. Critical part right there. We have a 34,000 gallon tank, or a tank that's at least holding 34,000 gallons of product, and this container may explode when heated. Many liquids will float on water. So this is the environmental hazard concern that I've already seen from some of the videos from the Orange County Fire Authority. Health could cause toxic effects if inhaled or absorbed through the skin, so I'm going to need chemical protective clothing. Bunks and SCBA are not A-OK. We may need to change our PPE if we're going to touch the product. But if we're not going to touch the product, bunker gear and SCBA is okay. But once again, I go back to that explosively. That's a limiting factor. Inhalation could cause or may irritate or burn skin or eyes. Fire will produce irritating, corrosive, or toxic gases. This is critically important to the public because they don't have respiratory protection. The fire will produce irritating, corrosive, toxic vapors may cause dizziness or asphyxiation. So if we have just a release, and even if it's not on fire, we can have an issue. Runoff from fire control or dilution water may cause environmental contamination. So we need EPA out there, which I think they did get EPA Region 9. I think some of the on-scene commanders that I know are down there working on this right now. I have not reached out to any of my friends in Orange County Fire or in EPA Region 9 because I know that they are absolutely unbelievably busy and they don't need nerds from the Pacific Northwest and nerds from the East Coast that know them and everywhere else saying, what's going on? What's going on? I'm letting them do their job. The next conference, I'm going to be able to listen to them. We'll talk it all out. So I need to call 911. Wait a second, I am 911. Yeah, so Orange County's already there. We're good. So this is hitting the public safety. We got to keep unauthorized personnel away, stay upwind, upstream, ventilate closed spaces. SCBA and bunker gear work out well, but it only provides limited chemical protection. This gives me a lean back to chemical protective clothing. So as an immediate precautionary measure, we're going to isolate the spill or leak for 150 feet in all directions. That's for a leak of 55 gallons or less. This is for 34,000 gallons. So we're going to go to a large spill. So we need at least 1,000 feet downwind protection, and we're going to need much more. Remember, this is a transportation page. But here, we take a look at this. If a tank is involved in fire, isolate for half a mile in all directions. Let's go back. Let's take a look there. 2,000 feet, 3,400 feet. That was just a quick guess right there. So we're a little bit over half a mile right there. So at minimum, hitting this entire industrial park to Chapman is needed, and that's in every direction. So we're going 2,500 feet, and out of an abundance of caution because of the polymerization product, they probably ended up going more because this is a much larger tank than a semi-truck. And like I said, the ERG is just generic guidance. Let me see if I can find the map here. There we go. I'm just jumping between tabs here. It's fun to be ADD. I know, it's a fuzzy map. So they hit a pretty large evacuation area. And you can see you can see when I'm looking at this initial evacuation, I know it's really fuzzy, but we went probably about a half mile down, half mile over this way. And it was just easier to keep this road as a shut-off and evacuation instead of cutting it into the half mile. And then because the winds were coming from the south predominantly, we have a longer isolation evacuation area here. Now, The consideration probably occurred that from this line up, that this neighborhood here could have sheltered in place. This is I'm literally just spitballing here. They probably could have talked about that, and I'm guessing the incident commander and other, senior representatives said, "No, that will cause mixed messaging. We're gonna evacuate this section, but we're gonna shelter in place this section. Screw it, we're just gonna do evacuation all across the board." Because shelter in place is a temporary process, and when you're taking a look at we're what, 5 days, 4 or 5 days into this event? Shelter in place doesn't work for 4 or 5 days. Shelter in place is for short time frames. So, let's, carry on with our ERG. We're just jumping around. So we talked about this is the awareness page here. This is when I talk to my hazmat responders, whether it be awareness, operations, technician, incident commanders. This is my awareness. This is for me to identify what the product is, and this is a family of products. This is not MMA. That's the abbreviation for methyl methacrylate. MMA. This is a whole wide family of chemicals. That's why it says substances designated with a P will polymerize. This is my operations page. If the product's on fire, the majority of these products have very low flash point, use water spray or firefighting foam may be, water spray may be inefficient. We can skip small fire because if it happens, it's going to turn into a large fire. Water spray, fog, or alcohol-resistant foam, which is difficult for us to get that. Avoid aiming straight or stalled streams directly in the product. We don't want to activate things and punch my baby. We do not want to do that. We do not want to volatilize this product. We're trying to suppress vapors. If it can be done safely, move undamaged container. You can't do that. It's a fixed facility. Fight fire from a maximum distance using unmanned master streams. From the videos I saw, they were doing unmanned master streams, unstaffed master streams. Cool the containers with quantities of water until it fires out. Withdraw immediately in the sound of venting safety devices. Always stay away from leak. Spill or leak. Eliminate ignition sources. All equipment must be grounded. Do not walk in the product. Stop the leak if you can do so without risk. This is where we're going to get into a difficult point for the general public to recognize. We need to do a risk-based response. NFPA 470 is the training standard for firefighter hazmat technicians, not just firefighter hazmat technicians. And it tells us that we have to do a risk-based response. So once we start the evacuation and we know that the public's protected, am I going to risk my life and limb for your house? No. Will I risk my life and limb for your safety and to get you out of a burning building or a significant hazmat event, doing a line of sight rescue? Absolutely. But to save your house, that can be replaced. We see this during wildfire response. We do see this during structure fire response. We see this through everything. So the whole goal is the incident commander is the employer. Per OSHA, per Cal OSHA, per state, federal OSHA, the incident commander is the boss, and they have a due responsibility to the safety of their employees, the firefighters. I understand that firefighters love to see, see fire, expect the victims, something like that. All of our catchphrases of, we're going to go in, we're going to hit it hard from the yard, we need to go in and do searches without hose lines. That's not a conversation for now. This is a conversation for understanding OSHA and understand the requirements and responsibilities of an incident commander who is the employer. The incident commander has a full responsibility of the safety of his employees. And if they find out that they're sending their employees in to harm's way and they end up getting killed, that incident commander doesn't just get a little slap on the wrist. That is prison. That is losing your job, losing your career, losing your reputation, and of course, still having on your head for the rest of your life that you killed 1, 2, 3 firefighters to save a house. So you have to take a step back and stop putting this emotion into this. And we carry on with this in this thought process. We take a look here. For the large spill, we're going to dike far ahead. Liquid spill, water spray may reduce vapor, but may not prevent ignition in closed spaces. All right. Identifying what that risk is. The first risk right now is to the public. That's why we ended up doing the evacuation. So we get the public out of the area, but now we have to get operations going again. So this turns into an extended event. We haven't even started taking a look at the chemical yet. We found out methyl methacrylate. Even though I don't see a highlighted section down here, I am going to do my due diligence. The UN number was 1247. I'm going to verify if it's a toxic inhalation hazard, which I do not think it is. And I go down here into the green pages, 1247, which is, nope, there it is. There is no 1247. So I can carry on. And that's my first initial phases. That's how we start everything out. So we jump on back and we take a look at the Orange County 34,000 gallon tank containing methyl methacrylate. So we're going to start doing some research. How about that? Going to jump into the NIOSH Pocket Guide. This is my little the hazmat operations book is the emergency response guide book. The technician book is this pocket guide right here. We jump on into this NIOSH Pocket Guide, and we're going to take a look here at what this means to me. And I did find on page 214, it is in here. All out of the 677 chemicals this book has, thank God it has methyl methacrylate. I just got to get on down to page 214 on my PDF so then we can see what's going on. Just letting you see the thought process of this. And we're going to go back to the Twitter here. And who knows, I might have to cut this short because I think my nephew's coming. He's got to pick up a vehicle. But let's take a look. Boom. Methyl methacrylate. So, bam. I see... Yeah, this is a big long chain hydrocarbon. I have some unstable bonds. I'm not a chemist, but I see that we have the potential for polymerization, capital P, inhibited, angry chemical right there. I have an IDLH of 1,000 parts per million. That's another big one I'm going to write down. Carbon monoxide, CO, carbon monoxide poisoning has an IDLH of 1,200 parts per million, 1,200 parts per million. So this has a toxicity very similar to carbon monoxide. And carbon monoxide is a very deadly substance. We exhale it. Our vehicles exhale it. It disperses a lot, but this is pretty toxic. So I can understand right now what we're taking a look at here. Got different names. I got my NIOSH recommended exposure limit with a time weighted average of 100 parts per million and an OSHA permissible exposure limit of a time weighted average of 100 parts per million. I'm going to guess Cal OSHA is going to have even a different number. Let's see if I can find it. No, I'm not interested in AI. I just want to find what Cal OSHA has. Because Cal numbers typically are lower. On a lot of they have a whole wide array of chemicals and permissible exposure limits that are lower than federal limits. And it looks like legal exposure limits for Cal OSHA sets and enforces workplace exposure to 100 parts of MMA per million. So it is the same as federal OSHA. So we can stick with this PDF here. And there we go. I got my guys coming in right now. I'm going to let them just keep on going. They're going to take care of that stuff. So it's a colorless liquid with an acrid, fruity odor. Here's some of the big things that I care about when I'm taking a look at research as well. The molecular weight, 100.1. It is heavier than air. Air is 29.2. So this is about 3 times heavier than air. So this is going to have pretty much the vapor weight of gasoline. So it can easily go into vaults, underground areas, utility areas. And we look at this, it's got a boiling point of 214 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is water. It's not water, but its physical property is similar to water. So I'm going to see its vapor pressure is going to be similar to water. Vapor pressure of 29 millimeters of mercury. So when we started seeing temperatures, the first temperatures they said is that it was about 100 degrees Fahrenheit and rising. If we just look at the chemical itself and not even talk about the polymerization, it's going to evaporate the same way that water does at about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. A little bit more. It's not exactly the same, but this is just a quick, fat hazmat rule of thumb. When I take a look at these products, I identify very quickly this product looks, feels, acts like water, only it's much heavier, but it does mix with water. It has a solubility as well. Not a lot, 1.5, but we got a flash point. It is over 50 degrees Fahrenheit in California right now, and the product is over 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So if we have a spark, it's going to ignite. It's got an LEL and a UEL. This is gasoline. This is water gasoline. That's what this is. It's got physical properties of water, and it's got chemical properties of gasoline. That's what this is. I just put this is my first time looking at this. So the physical properties of the boiling point, the flash point, or the boiling point, and the vapor pressure. That's definitely water. The chemical properties of the flash point, UEL, LEL. It's very similar to gasoline. Okay, gasoline has a flash point much lower, but we know that it's going to be flammable in our environment. One big thing I see right there, it's got an ionization potential, an IP of 9.7 electron volts. That means that our monitors on our hazmat rigs can see it. Our photoionization detectors have a bulb of 10.6 electron volts, so we can see it. We have to get conversion factors. They use ray systems down there, I think, and there are conversion factors out there for it. So they will be able to quantify down to that 100 part per million level after they figure out the correlation of the response factor with what the response is between isobutylene versus methyl methacrylate MMA. So we can see it. We can see this from an LEL sensor. We can see this from a photoionization detector. So this is good. We can see if it's leaking. So we can get out our air monitors with our PIDs and we can get thermal imaging cameras to see this. Now, one thing that I did notice and I saw in the news, like I said, I haven't been paying attention to a lot of the news. It's an insulated tank, which is good. You need to have an insulated tank for a product like this. You don't want it to get too hot. Let me see what I got here. So I am going to pause this for all three of my amazing members, and I'm going to come back and I got to go find out what's going on with my nephew and that broken pickup truck. And then we're going to come back and we're going to get more into the response to this. We've already hit some of the chemical and physical properties. We've got a decent assessment on this, but I'm going to blather on here in a little bit. But we'll see you guys probably give me half an hour. And if you have any comments and you want me to change it, I'm all about that.